I set the wine glasses on the coffee table and watched Graham settle into the couch. At 42, he still moved with that restless energy that first caught my attention. 7 years younger, 7 years hungrier for life than I'd become. At 49. Close your eyes, I said. He raised an eyebrow but complied, a smile tugging at his lips. Another surprise? You spoil me. I reached for the small device on the bookshelf, its red light dormant. This isn't jewelry or dinner reservations. His eyes opened. Viv, what are you? Trust me. I positioned myself across from him. I've been watching you lately, how you look at other women, not with guilt, just hunger, natural hunger. Graham shifted, uncomfortable. We've talked about this. I'm committed to, I know you are. That's why I want to give you something. I paused, feeling the weight of what I was about to propose. Her name is Elena, 23. She understands the arrangement. The color drained from his face. Vivian, I can't. You can. I want you to. The words came easier than expected. I want to watch. He stared at me for a long moment, searching my face for signs of a trap or test. Why? I'd asked myself the same question for weeks. Because I want to see you alive in a way I haven't in years, because I'm curious about myself. I leaned forward. Because after 25 years of marriage, I want to discover something new about us. Graham ran his hands through his hair. And you'd be okay with that? Really okay? More than okay. Excited. The admission surprised even me. He stood, paced to the window, then back. When? Tonight. She's coming at 8. Elena knocked at precisely 8 o'clock. I opened the door to find a petite brunette with knowing eyes and a confident smile. She wore a simple black dress that suggested rather than revealed. You must be Vivian, she said, extending her hand. I led her to the living room where Graham waited, tension radiating from his shoulders. Elena approached him without hesitation, her hand finding his cheek. Relax, she whispered. This is a gift, remember? I activated the device, its subtle hum filling the silence. Through the viewfinder, I watched Elena settle onto Graham's lap, her fingers tracing his jawline. She was natural, uninhibited. Graham's initial stiffness melted as she laughed at something he murmured. The lens captured everything, the way his hands found her waist, how she bit her lower lip when he kissed her neck. I'd expected jealousy, some primal territorial response. Instead, I felt fascination. This was Graham unleashed, passionate in ways our comfortable marriage had buried. Elena guided his hands, whispered encouragement. Graham responded with an intensity I hadn't seen in years. They moved together with increasing urgency, forgetting my presence behind the lens. I zoomed in on his face as Elena's dress slipped from her shoulders. His expression was raw, desperate, beautiful. This was what I'd wanted to capture, not the act itself, but the transformation. The man I married was still there, but deeper, wilder. When they finally stilled, breathing heavily against each other, I lowered the device. Elena looked over at me, her eyes bright. Thank you, she said simply, then gathered her things and left. Graham and I sat in silence, the weight of what had happened settling between us. For 3 days, we moved around each other like strangers sharing a hotel room. Graham made coffee in the morning, kissed my forehead, went to work. I tended my garden, read, prepared dinner. We exchanged pleasantries about weather and weekend plans. Neither of us mentioned Elena or the device now locked in my desk drawer. Graham lingered in doorways, started sentences that went nowhere. I caught him watching me while I folded laundry, his expression unreadable. We were both waiting for the other to speak first, to name what had changed between us. On Wednesday night, I found him standing in our bedroom, staring at the wall where a framed photo of us from our honeymoon hung. 25 years younger, arms wrapped around each other on a beach in Santorini. Do you regret it? He asked without turning around. I considered lying, giving him the answer that would restore our comfortable equilibrium. No. He nodded slowly. I keep thinking about your face. When you were watching us. You looked. How did I look? Alive. More alive than I'd seen you in months. He finally turned to face me. Is that terrible to say? I moved to stand beside him, studying our younger selves in the photo. I felt alive, for the first time in a long time. Graham reached for my hand. What does that mean for us? I intertwined our fingers, feeling the familiar callus on his ring finger, the scar from a kitchen accident last year. I don't know yet. That night, we lay in bed, not touching, both staring at the ceiling. The space between us felt charged with possibility and danger. Saturday afternoon, while Graham worked in the garage, I retrieved the device from my desk. The weight of it in my hands felt heavier than before, loaded with consequence. I connected it to our television and called for Graham. He appeared in the doorway, saw the frozen image on the screen, and stopped. Viv, sit with me, I said, patting the couch cushion. He moved cautiously, settling beside me as I pressed play. The first few moments were awkward, watching ourselves navigate the strange territory we'd entered. But as Elena relaxed Graham's shoulders, as his hands found confidence, I felt Graham's breathing change beside me. On screen, his younger self surrendered to Elena's guidance. The man beside me now shifted, uncomfortable with his own abandon. Look at yourself, I whispered. Really look. He was beautiful in his vulnerability, his need. Elena had unlocked something I'd forgotten existed in him. As the recording progressed, I felt Graham's attention shift from the screen to me. You're not watching, he said. I'm watching you watch yourself. I turned to face him fully. This is what I wanted. This moment right here. His eyes searched my face. What do you see? A man who's been holding back. A marriage that's been playing it safe. I touched his cheek. A woman who's been asleep and didn't know it. Graham leaned into my touch. And now? I kissed him then, soft at first, then with the hunger I'd watched him show Elena. He responded immediately, his hands finding my waist, pulling me closer. The recording played on, forgotten, as we discovered each other again with new eyes. We talked until dawn, still tangled together on the couch. Graham traced patterns on my shoulder while I mapped the familiar territory of his chest. I need to understand something, he said. What you felt, watching us. Was it voyeurism or something else? I considered the question carefully. Both, neither. I felt like I was seeing you for the first time in years. The real you, not the careful husband version. And that excited you? Terrified and excited me. I shifted to look at him. I discovered something about myself that night. I like watching. I like seeing you free. Graham was quiet for a long moment. Elena asked if we'd want to do it again. My pulse quickened. What did you tell her? That I'd have to ask my wife. His fingers stilled on my shoulder. But I think the real question is what you want. I thought about the woman I'd been before that night. Careful, predictable, settled into routines that felt like safety. Then I thought about the woman who'd held that device, who'd discovered a new kind of intimacy through watching. I want to cross lines I didn't know existed, I said finally. I want to keep discovering what we're capable of. Graham pulled me closer. Even if it changes us? Especially if it changes us. I kissed his collarbone. We've been married so long, I thought we knew everything about each other. But we don't. We've just been playing the same roles for 25 years. He laughed softly. So what now? Do we call Elena? I shook my head. Not yet. First, I want to explore what this opened between us. Just us. The sun was rising, casting long shadows across our living room. We'd crossed some invisible line in the night, stepped into territory we couldn't map from memory. 3 weeks later, the cost revealed itself at Sarah's dinner party. I was refilling wine glasses when I overheard her whispering to Margaret by the kitchen island. Saw her husband with some young girl at the Marriott bar. 20-something, very cozy. My hand stilled on the bottle. Graham was across the room, laughing at Tom's fishing story, completely unaware. Margaret glanced my way. Should someone tell her? God, no. Can you imagine? Poor Vivian. I set the bottle down carefully and walked to the powder room, my reflection staring back from the mirror. Poor Vivian, the phrase echoed in my mind. When we got home, I confronted Graham immediately. Were you with Elena at the Marriott? He looked genuinely confused. What? No. When? Last Thursday. Sarah's friend saw you. Understanding dawned. That was Jennifer from accounting. We were going over the quarterly reports. He reached for me. Viv, you know I wouldn't. I know. But the damage was done. Our private revolution had leaked into public perception. People were watching us now, looking for cracks. Over the following days, I noticed the subtle changes. fewer dinner invitations, conversations that stopped when I entered rooms. The device sat in my drawer, no longer a secret treasure, but evidence of our transgression. Graham found me in the garden that weekend, hands deep in soil, trying to anchor myself in something real. We could move, he said quietly. I looked up at him, dirt under my fingernails, marriage hanging in the balance. Run away? Start fresh somewhere, where people don't know us. The offer was tempting, but running would mean the experiment had failed, that we couldn't sustain what we'd discovered. Or, I said, we could stay and own what we've become. 6 months later, we'd found our rhythm. The whispers eventually faded, replaced by new scandals and gossip. We'd lost some friends, but kept the ones who mattered. Graham and I had learned to navigate our new intimacy, deeper, more honest, occasionally dangerous. We never called Elena again, but her presence had cracked something open between us that couldn't be sealed. I still kept the device in my drawer, but we rarely used it. The real discovery hadn't been voyeurism or exhibitionism. It had been permission. Permission to want more, to be more than the comfortable couple we'd become. Some evenings, Graham would catch me watching him read or work in the garden, and he'd smile. What are you thinking about? How different you look now, I'd say. How different we both look. The truth was, I'd given him a woman that night, but what I'd really given us both was freedom from the people we thought we had to be. The marriage we'd built on safety and routine had been replaced by something more volatile and real. Was it sustainable? I didn't know. Was it worth the cost? Absolutely. On quiet Sunday mornings, when Graham brought me coffee in bed and settled beside me with the newspaper, I sometimes remembered the woman I'd been before that night. Careful, predictable, half asleep. I didn't miss her. Graham would catch me smiling and ask what was funny. Nothing, I'd say, but we both knew better. Everything was different now. Everything was awake. The gift I'd thought I was giving him had been for me all along. The permission to discover who we really were when we stopped pretending to be, who we thought we should be. Some prices are worth paying. Some doors, once opened, change everything that follows. The morning Graham found the journal, I was making coffee in the kitchen. He stood in the doorway holding it, his face unreadable. You left this on the nightstand, he said. I turned to face him, steam rising between us from my mug. I know. He opened it to a random page, read silently for a moment. His eyes found mine. Is this what you think about when you look at me? Sometimes. And the rest of the time? I think about how lucky I am that you stayed. He set the journal on the counter and crossed to me, his hands finding my waist. You really thought I might leave? I thought you might want to. After reading this? He laughed, soft and low. Sarah, this isn't a confession. It's an invitation. Later, as we lay tangled in sheets that had seen more passion in the past month than in the previous year, I traced patterns on his chest and wondered if other couples had found their way back to each other through such deliberate unraveling. What are you thinking? He asked. That I should have been braver sooner. We both should have been. Outside, the world continued its predictable rotation. But inside our small corner of it, everything had shifted. We'd learned that honesty wasn't just about telling the truth. It was about creating space for truth to exist, to breathe, to transform us. The woman I'd been before would have called this dangerous. The woman I was now called it essential. Some gifts, I realized, can only be received when you're finally ready to give them to yourself.